guys. So when the outside looks like this, it is the time that I plant all my seeds and get so excited for spring. Last year was my first official season as kind of more of a flower farmer. First year that I got serious about planting. I mean, I'd planted like zinnias and stuff before, but never had I planted with the intention of just cutting flowers. So last year was my first year, and so I figured it'd be great to do a recap of my last year flower farming. What I planted was I planted Iceland poppies, which I ended up planting on, I didn't use for cut flowers. I planted them on my mound and like one bloomed. It was amazing. No, I am kind of curious to see if they'll come back up. My mound is pretty much straight rock. Like, I wanted a mound in my yard and they're like, okay. And so they went and got the backhoe with a pile of rock and made a mound. And so there was very little dirt on that mound. And so when I was planting the poppies, you know, they're these cute little seedlings that I babied along, and I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. So yeah, they kind of like were there, but I never saw any other than the one bloom, and I don't know what will happen. We'll see. It'd be great if they like came back this spring, but I kind of gave up on poppies this year just because I don't have a hoop house and it gets way too hot, way too quick. Here, I am in zone 5A. I am high desert, and so it's like, goes from cold to hot, and like we just jump, and my season's not very long. And so I would love a hoop house, but we're not there yet. So I did Iceland poppies. I planted bells of Ireland, and they were amazing. Beautiful and amazing, and I loved them. And they actually, I had no problems with them, no problems. I put them in little pots, and then we moved them outside, transplanted them, and then I planted mid-season again, and they grew amazing, which I was expecting to have like tons of problems. They were fabulous. So I'm doing Bells Island again. I will go through a more detailed what I'm doing this year list, but this is just more of a recap. I planted sweet peas, and I was so looking forward to it because I've never actually smelled what a sweet pea smells like. Like, it's just something I've never been around. And so I was like, people say these are delicious, and I was so excited. And they like germinated great, but then they didn't really come, like after I planted them outside, they like all died. It was too hot. I think I didn't plant them at the right time. Like, you know, I'm still learning, very much learning. And so at the very end of the season, when it started cooling down, there was one sweet pea that I noticed, and it had like one little bloom, but I couldn't really smell anything. And I bought a packet of sweet peas, and I'm trying a winter sowing method with them, but I'm not really putting any hopes on it this year. Maybe later I'll try it. Maybe somehow I'll be able to smell sweet peas one day, but yeah, so sweet peas didn't really work out great for me. Still got some fine tuning there. I planted snapdragons for the first time ever. The chantilly mix. Anyways, I fell in love. Like, they are my favorite flower ever. And they all, like, I planted them and they just bloomed and bloomed and bloomed and bloomed, and I cut and I cut and I cut and I cut, and they went clear. They were still blooming in November here, which is like freezing cold, unheard of. Like, not everything else in my garden is like dead, and the snapdragons are like, we're alive. So I love the snapdragons. I actually could not find the same mix of seeds this year, and so I had to get some variations, and we'll see how that goes. We'll see if I love them as much. I planted Gomphrena, which was beautiful, and I should have harvested way more, but I just, you know, you're still learning. I'm still learning. And so, but they were really pretty once I did finally harvest them. I planted zinnias, mostly the Binary Giant series, and I have more of those. They were like, meh. I loved them. They're big, pretty, beautiful, but at the same time, they were like not my absolute favorite. They were pretty. I planted Rebecca, and I planted way more than I needed ever. Like, it was just overflowing with Rebecca, and the bees loved it though. So I'd go out there and it was just this buzz of bees, and they're all over the flowers, and they just, this pretty yellow flower, and I loved it. And I'm planting more Rebecca and a few different varieties this coming year. I planted cress once and it was like, bam, we're done. And so I didn't have any filler, and I was like, oh no, how do I replant this? I did not buy enough seeds for that. Like, that was another learning thing. Buy lots of cress seeds if you're going to plant it, because it's like a succession sowing. You need to like continually plant those in order to have them. And they were pretty and I loved them when I could use them as filler, but it was I wasn't able to use it very long because I didn't know the timing on that. What else did I plant? Cosmos. I planted lots of cosmos and they were beautiful. I didn't stake them, which I had Afternoon White and the Double Click series. And they needed staking. They got tall enough, and with the wind that we have here, I needed to stake them. And I wasn't on top of like the bloom, like they would just go so fast, and then they didn't last very long in the vase. Like, it seemed like 5 days max. And so I wasn't like, they were beautiful and frilly, and you know what cosmos are. I love them. But they just didn't last long enough for me, and I hated the look of like the drop petals. So I have cosmos this year, but they're gonna be like a small amount and just more for my enjoyment than for like cutting for other people. I planted some amaranth, which we have a weed that looks very, very similar to this amaranth when it's like babies. And so I was like, is that a weed or is that? So I let it grow, and it was a weed. It was not amaranth. And so then I replanted the seeds, and I finally, at the end of the season, got like a little bit of amaranth. And so I'm not sure if I ordered more. I definitely have different filler this year, but it was beautiful when I finally got it. Sunflowers. I need a drink of water. So I planted Pro-Cut Bicolor, Sunrise Orange, and a red one. I can't remember the red one's name off the top of my head. And they were beautiful and filled my whole sunflower patch. I just wasn't on top of like planting them far enough apart. Like, I got to the point where I was just like, throw them in the ground, because we had to set up water, and it just was getting later and later in the season. And so they all bloomed really similar in time. And so it was really hard for me to stay on top of it. So I didn't even hardly sell any sunflower bouquets this year, which I love sunflowers, and I was hoping to sell some. I did give my daughter some for her play, which was fun, like bringing in this massive bouquet of like homegrown flowers, and she's like, thanks. But I loved it. I loved being able to do that and have like just fresh flowers. So I am going to plant more sunflowers, and I'm hoping to be able to plan them out better so I will have more throughout the season and less like just all at once. Let's see. And then my pumpkin patch was the other big thing that I did this year. And that was a huge goal of mine, was to have a pumpkin patch. I've always like wanted a pumpkin patch with tons of like unique pumpkins. And I planned on selling some. I gave most of them away because it just got late into the year, and fall is busy. Fall is busy time with the kids back in school and all the holidays, and I just get a little bit more busy, and so I need to prepare for that better. And we didn't really have a place to like sell them this year. It was mostly me just like posting online, hey, come get this. And I hate feeling like that. Like, I hate feeling like I'm begging my friends and like, hey, come on, all the time. And so I'd rather just have something set up that people could come and get them from, or I could take it to a market of some sort to sell them. But so I am doing more pumpkins, and I loved like all the unique varieties that I got. I had porcelain doll and the flat stackers and Casparita and the knucklehead and Jardal. I don't know if I'm still saying that right, but that's what I'm calling it. So I just had tons of fun, like unique varieties, because I feel like here, at least where I'm at, you can buy a ton of orange pumpkins and a ton of like, you know, the classic Halloween pumpkin. But I love the more decorative pumpkins that I'm gonna put on my porch and enjoy. And so that's kind of what I'm leaning towards more with my pumpkin patch, is more of those unique varieties that you just can't usually find as easily. But other than that, it was a great year. Like I absolutely loved having flowers to cut from the garden and just being able to bring them in my house and making tons of bouquets. Like I've never made a bouquet before, and so just learning like how to put things together, what colors I liked, and I don't know, it was just bliss, honestly. Like, and so I'm really looking forward to next year. I'm getting excited to get all my seed planting, and I'm gonna show you guys what I bought because I spent all of my monies. My goal last year was to sell enough bouquets that I would have enough money to buy at least what the seeds I bought last year amount, which I did make that. So that was awesome. I spent about $200 last year and I made about 200. I spent about $250 this year. So that's kind of like going backwards here, but there's so many new varieties that I want to try this year. And so I feel like last year I got a really good grasp of like what I needed to do and kind of like the basics of stuff. And this year I'm really looking forward to expounding on that knowledge and like maybe planting stuff earlier, figuring out what works, kind of experimenting a little bit more and not being, I was very gun shy with a lot of stuff, but I'm excited to like branch out, and I feel like 2022 is going to be a great year and I hope to share it with you guys. So thanks for watching.